All right. What's going on? Welcome, everyone. This is cool. I see that everyone is saying where they're from. Hey, David from Australia. Anders from Queens, from Russia. Thea, what's up? Neil from Calgary. William from Patterson, New Jersey. Kevin from DC. We have a very worldwide audience today. This is very cool. Hi from California. Marushka, I'm also in California. I'm in LA right now. Hey, Fernando, what's up? Santa Cruz, okay, we got a couple Callies by way of UK. Moscow, a couple people from Russia. Very cool. So, welcome. It's going to be a quick 1-hour webinar, and I'm going to go through the 3 myths and 3 truths of touring the US and Europe. So, no matter where you are in the world, whether you live in the States, in Europe, or in Russia, or in Australia, or wherever you are, if you are wondering about how to tour Europe or the US, I'm going to just kind of go through kind of some baseline foundations. And by the end of this hour, you'll have an understanding on how to tour the US and Europe. So also, I want you to know, if you stay to the very end, I'm going to show you how you can double your income at every show. So we're going to go through the 3 truths. We're going to go through the 3 myths. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk about income and show income and how you can double your show income. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. You can see Emily. She is our moderator. She is in the chat box. And what I'm going to do, so as I kind of go through my slideshow, my presentation, I'm not really going to be paying attention to the chat box because I want to focus on kind of giving you all the information and staying on track. And but Emily is in there, so if you have any questions about what I'm saying, she'll either answer them in the chat box, or if it's something that everybody could use some clarity on, she will broadcast the question. I'll see it pop up on my screen, and then I will address it on the spot, and I'll like break and then address it and then come back. Okay, so all right, right on. So for those of you who don't know, maybe you just stumbled here because you saw a link somewhere or somebody told you you should watch this. My name is Ari Herstand. I am, I'm the author of How to Make It in the New Music Business. It is this book. It is pretty thick. It came out December 2016. Actually, the 2nd edition of this book is coming out this November. It is being used by most schools around the country and even around the world now, being taught in music business classrooms. I'm an independent musician, singer-songwriter. I front a funk soul project based out of LA right now. Forbes magazine called me the poster child of DIY music. Okay, I'll take it. I played over 700 shows all around the world, mostly booked on my own, by myself. I've booked many tours by myself. I've performed everywhere from living rooms to arenas and every kind of show you can possibly imagine in between. I've performed on Ellen with 30 Seconds to Mars. I've charted on iTunes. I've had a bunch of songs placed on TV shows and movies and films and commercials. I've spoken all over the world at South by Southwest. I just gave a keynote, a feature talk there at South by this year. The ASCAP Expo a couple weeks ago, I just spoke there. Spoken at the BBC Introducing Amplify Conference in London, CD Baby DIY Musician Conference. I've spoken at colleges all over the country. And a lot of you probably know me from my blog, Ari's Take, and I've written for other publications like Digital Music News and Music Connection Magazine, Hypebot, American Songwriter Magazine, all of that. And from my writing and writing the book and everything, I've interviewed hundreds of kind of the movers and shakers of the music industry. So I'm in this unique position where I'm a musician, a working musician, and I just I've learned a lot of this stuff on my own, but I've been put in this unique position where because I was writing for these publications and because I had this book and I was writing for the book, I had access to basically interview anyone in the industry that I wanted. So not every musician gets that access, and I know that, and I took that responsibility very seriously. So I've learned a lot, and I love sharing this. I'm obsessed with learning, but I'm also obsessed with sharing. and I really want to help the independent music community out there. That's why I've been running Ari's Take for so many years, and why I'm kind of doing a lot of the other stuff outside of my music career, to kind of share the information of what I've learned. Okay, so as we get started, I want to actually queue up a little poll I have just to see who you are, who everyone is here today, so I can kind of customize this talk a little bit based on who you are. So let me see if you can see that. Just take this little poll. It should be up in the chat box there, so I can get an understanding of who you are. Okay, so we have some musicians, some managers in here. All right. Okay. Dope. Mostly musicians and managers. All right. Momagers, dadagers, friendagers. Great. So we're pretty much split. That's awesome. Musicians and managers, momagers, dadagers. We have a publicist in here. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. So that helps. That's great. So we're mostly musicians in here. We got some managers, but we're all kind of on the business arm of working our music careers. So right on. And I'm assuming since you're here, you're live musicians or managers of artists who perform live and are interested in touring and how to break out of your home scene. We have an agent. What's up, Bruce? Agent. Cool. Producers. Great. Yeah, I put a musician as my catch-all term for songwriter, producer, you know, that kind of thing. All right. Awesome. I'm going to end that poll. Dope. Okay. So I am going to queue up my slideshow. Okay. You can see that. All right. 3 truths and 3 myths of touring the US and Europe. Rock and roll. Here we go. We're going to start with the myths. Myths, the things that are not true. Myths, untruths, not true. Okay, myth number 1. If you book it, they will come. That is not true. So what this means, if you book it, they will come. A lot of people think that if you just book a show at a well-known venue, people are going to show up. I made that mistake early on. I'm like, wow, I'm playing the Steak Knife. I'm playing the Varsity Theater. I'm playing the Hotel Cafe. These are well-known venues. People are going to show up, right? Wrong. I learned that the hard way. Just because you're playing a reputable venue means nothing. It does not mean that people are going to show up. Most venues do not have built-in crowds. And if they do, the person who's booking you will typically tell you there's going to be a crowd here, so you don't have to worry about promoting. So I've done both kinds of shows. I played shows where there is a built-in crowd, like colleges. I've done a lot of college shows, and there are built-in crowds there. And I've done festivals, obviously built-in crowds there, corporate events. You know, these are the built-in crowd community centers, those kinds of things. Basic events will have built-in crowds. Now, every venue, club, music venue, those kinds of things, those are not built-in crowds. They rely on you to bring the crowd. So you have to promote to bring these. Now, venues and the promoters, whoever you're working with, whether you're working with a talent buyer from a venue or a promoter who's setting up the show, you want to look at them as partners. You can't just depend on them to do all of the work. You want to work together to have a successful show. Now, you really need to think about this. Venues typically have, some venues have 7 shows a week. And of those shows, maybe there are 4 artists on each show, maybe, 4 bands. So 28 artists are playing their venue each week. They can't promote every single show. If the venue promoted every single show, then we would never, they would not, people would tune them out. Their audience, the venue audience would be like, okay, I get it. Like you have shows every single night. I can't pay attention to all of this. So they might simply post it on Instagram when a show is announced, or the show's this week, or, on their Facebook, or it'll be A lot of times they will send their calendar out to the newspapers and magazines and blogs and everything like that, but they're not really promoting it. They're depending on you to promote the show. So if you want anyone at your show, you have to promote them, and you have to work on how to promote these shows and put together a serious promo plan. Even for your local shows, especially for your local shows, and especially for touring shows. This works the same. Just because you're a touring artist does not mean people are going to show up. Just because it says, like, you know, rock band from Utah doesn't mean that people are going to come. Just because they like rock, and it's like, wow, Utah is so far away. Or if we have someone from Utah, that means nothing. You have to promote it. You have to put together a strategic promotional plan for every single show on your tour that you're going to play. Okay, that was myth number 1. Myth number 2, if you're killing it online, you will kill it live. Not true. So we're in an interesting era where people are killing it online. We're seeing people with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers, hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify and Apple Music and on YouTube, sometimes millions of streams. Now, I have seen people with millions and millions and millions of streams on Spotify who can't draw 50 people to their local shows. We're in this era where you can blow up online and it's just not translating into live shows, into tickets. We have to remember that streams do not equal fans. Just because somebody has 5 million streams on Spotify, and maybe it says that, you know, 80% of those streams, let's say, are in the US, and let's say maybe 60% of those US streams are in LA. That doesn't mean that you now have tens of thousands of fans in LA if you do the math like that. It means that there may be tens of thousands of people in LA or in the US or wherever around the world that happen to hear your song maybe once, maybe on a playlist that they were listening to. That doesn't mean they're a fan of you. That means they're a fan of the playlist. They might not even know who you are. So we have to remember that just because you have 100,000 monthly listeners or 10 million streams or, you know, 3 million views or whatever, these are not necessarily fans. They could be, but we don't really know based on just streaming metrics or YouTube metrics or anything like that. So keep that in the back of your mind. They can be helpful at determining where you want to tour and how you're going to engage with your audience and the different platforms of what you want to utilize to promote the shows and to engage with the audience. But these are not really fans. So similarly, just because you have an incredible album and you release that album out to the world and it does really well, it doesn't mean that you're going to be a great live performer. I can't tell you how many artists that I have fallen in love with their albums. And then I go see them live and I'm so disappointed that it was such a turnoff. They were so bad that I stopped being a fan. I was like, okay, well, they have a good album, but I'm never going to pay for their tickets again because they were not good live. The only way to become a better live performer is to perform live. So I know a lot of you a lot of us are antsy to get things going, but early on, if you don't have a lot of experience performing, or you formed a new band, or you're getting back into the performing thing, you have to perform a lot everywhere and anywhere just to get to cut your chops. And you really need to practice performing. And there's all different kinds of performance opportunities. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But that is how you're going to become a great live performer, is to perform live. And that is the most important thing if you want to be a live act, is to be an incredible live act. So when people leave your show, they need to tell everyone how incredible your show is. And it shouldn't go the other way around. It shouldn't be like, this album is amazing, you need to listen to this album. And then people see you live. Yeah, but they weren't that good live, so maybe don't go see them live. You don't want that. All right. Bruce Floor, who's one of the heads of Red Light Management, the largest artist management company in the world, he said, bands should not be trying to play in front of 1,500 people because they've got one song in heavy rotation on the radio, and they literally weren't a band a year and a half ago. they might get away with it for a little while, but I can tell you a bunch of bands that I heard on the radio 2 years ago, you ain't hearing about them now because they couldn't bring it live. This happens at every scale, whether you're a local artist playing to 50 people or whether you have a hit song on the radio and you just booked and sold out a nationwide tour playing 1,500 cap venues. You gotta bring it live. You really have to cut your chops doing that. Okay, myth number 3, you need a fan base to have a successful tour. All right, let me break this down a little bit. Let me unpack this because this is probably startling to you. It's like, well, you just said earlier that you have to promote your shows and there aren't built-in crowds. How am I supposed to do that? I don't have a fan base. I got you. Here I come. There are a lot of different kinds of performance opportunities that you can book shows around. There's what's called anchor dates. Anchor dates are dates that you set up, shows that you set up where you know you're going to either make a lot of money from, or there's going to be a lot of people there and they're going to help fund the tour. So some of the other shows on the tour you may not have a big audience and you're going to have to work a lot harder on promo, and you use your anchor dates, those shows. And now what are anchor dates? These can be alternative venues. So these can be church shows, temple shows, house concerts are huge. House concerts can be incredible. Festivals, and now we're not talking about like Coachella and Bonnaroo and Lollapalooza or you know, the big festivals. We're talking about the small festivals in small towns, and this is all over Europe, especially in Europe. There's a lot of different alternative venues and festivals, but even in the States, I mean, I can think of like 10 festivals in the States just off the top of my head that are smaller festivals. And these festivals, they are not well known. Most people don't really know about them. And they have a lot of people. They're like your local Bratfest in Madison, Wisconsin. And that brings 100,000 people every year. And they have built-in crowds and they will pay their artists. And all these festivals and alternative venues will pay their artists. And they have the built-in audience. So, you know, if you're playing music venues, no built-in audience, you need to bring that crowd. You need to promote them. But you could definitely I've seen people do entire tours that are house concerts, alternative venues, festivals, colleges, community centers, churches, all of that. And especially in Europe, this is done pretty frequently. And even more so in Europe, there are, especially outside of the major cities, like outside of London and Paris, in Amsterdam, there are communities that want music and they will hire you to come to their events and they will promote it and they will bring people. So you need to balance these kinds of shows. You're playing the more traditional music venues in big cities, you got to bring everybody. But you can actually set up a full tour of alternative venues and mix in the music venues and the club shows, and you team up with local acts to buffer the bills. We're going to get into that a little bit later, and then promote those shows in a very specific, creative way. And then you mix in your anchor dates. You mix in these alternative venues that do have built-in crowds, and that will definitely help you with a full-on tour that's going to be profitable, because that's the thing. You don't want to go out on the road and lose your shirt. You want to have a profitable tour, and you can. And remember, if you stick to the end, I'm going to show you how to double your show income at every show. Okay. Also, I want to tell you a little story. I'm going to take a little drink. So you want to, you can also engage local organizations. So a few years back, I was going on, this was one of my earliest tours. Actually, I think this might have been my first tour ever. So years ago. This is probably, let's see, this was 2010. This was my first national tour. And I was trying to figure out, you know, how am I going to tour? I don't have a fan base. I'm not really breaking online right now, but I want to build it live and I want to play all these different cities. So I booked 20 different cities. And what I did was I set up an all ages club on a Saturday in town. And I basically pitched it to the talent buyer, the booker. I'm like, hey, I know I've never been to your city before. I know I don't have any history in town, because they're all going to know, what is your history? How many tickets have you sold in our city, in Denver, in Phoenix, and whatever. But I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the week in your city, and I am engaging all of the local high schools and the music teachers at these high schools. I'm going to go into different high schools throughout the week, and I am going to talk to all of the music students. I'm going to play a few songs for them, and I'm going to talk about what it's like to be a touring musician. Now, at the time, I was doing a lot of regional tours, so I was successful in the region. I started in the Midwest, and I was doing really well in the Midwest around that time, but I hadn't done a national tour yet. And so I could talk about it, and I had been touring for a few years already. So and that's what I pitched to the music teachers also. I told them, I'm like, hey, I'm a touring musician. Here's my music. Here's some video clips of what I've done. I would like to, I'm going to be playing this venue that they all knew this on this date on Saturday. It's an all ages show. I'm going to spend the week in your town. I'd love to come in and be a guest speaker and talk to your students about how a formal music education helped me get to where I am. You know, stay in band, stay in choir, stay in music. But also I want to play some songs, and I'm going to take questions. I'm going to talk about what it's like to be a touring musician. All the music teachers were elated. They're like, this is awesome. Yes, please. And so for some of the schools, I set up in the auditorium, and every period, all the music classes would come to the auditorium, and I'd play a few songs. I'd take questions. I'd talk for a little bit. And then I sold merch, and I asked them, like, hey, you don't need to pay me, but allow me to sell my merch after these events. But really what I'm here to do is to promote my show on this Saturday. So I told the club talent buyers, the bookers, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this. I can guarantee I'm going to get at least 50 people into the show. So I was booking small clubs. You know, these were like, I don't know, 200 cap clubs. But for 50 people, they're like, all right, if you can do this. I convinced them. And sure enough, by going to the local high schools, at every single show, I did this in 20 different cities. Every show, I got 50 to 400 people to show up. My first time in these cities to show up to my club shows. The talent buyers, the clubs, venues, the promoters, they were elated. They were super thrilled about it. The music teachers loved it because I brought some programming to them. I sold a bunch of merch at the schools, and then even more merch at the shows. Everything was packed. You know, that was one way to engage local organizations in a town to promote the shows. Now, I would not recommend anybody else do what I just did for local high schools. You can, but I utilized my specific skill set, and that is I am comfortable speaking in front of audiences, speaking. A lot of musicians are not comfortable with that. They don't want to talk about what they do. Now, that's okay. But you have to know yourself and utilize your strengths, and you find the local organizations that make sense to you. And so you can engage, you know, if you're Jewish, engage the local JCCs or Hillel organizations, or Moshe houses, or synagogues. If you're in the LGBT community, you can engage the local LGBTQ organizations. If you're Christian, you can go hit up the churches in town. You can do some workshops like that. Let's say you're a master chess player, hit up some chess. If you're into theater, you can hit up some of the local theaters and maybe play during intermission at their shows. Or, you know, there's so many different things. So I would encourage everybody to think about, okay, what are my strengths outside of just music? What are my interests? What are my loves? And what are organizations that I could engage, that I could hit up? Because here's the thing, you know, the kids that came to these shows, the high school shows, they weren't just coming because they dug my music. I had come to them and they felt a connection to me. That's what you're looking for when you are trying to find your fans, is you're trying to make a connection. Now, there are people who may not necessarily always listen to your kind of music, but they want to support you because you're in their community. They feel a connection to you. So you can target these organizations that you have similar interests in, or maybe you're a part of these communities and you can hit up these local communities. So I really think definitely think about how you can engage local organizations to tour. Okay, so here are the 3 myths. We just covered them, and now we're going to get into the truths. 3 truths to touring US and Europe. All right, truth number 1, good enough is not good enough. Now, what does this mean? This means that nobody has time for mediocrity. Now, I live in LA. I've been in LA for about 9 years. And LA is an incredible town. I love it here. It is so inspiring. I'm surrounded by such amazing talent. But I've toured everywhere. And I started my music career in Minneapolis, which was a decent sized city, solid local community. But what I noticed is that most local bands in most local cities suck. That's just the reality. They're not very good. So if you don't suck, well, you stand out because people are more inclined to come to your shows because they're like, oh, these guys don't suck. You should come see them with me. You don't want to be known as the band that doesn't suck so much as everybody else in town. You want to be unstoppable. You don't want to be just good enough to pass. Because you may have some success in your hometown, but once you start touring, people don't have time for that. They don't have time or the money. They don't want to spend money and take a night off of watching Netflix to come see your show and then you just to be mediocre. They don't have time for mediocrity. You have to bring it hard. So this gets back to the first point that I made earlier. You really have to be an excellent live performer. And this comes down to rehearsing, to practicing, to honing your songs. And I can't stress this enough. It does not matter how all the promo tactics that you may learn from my book, the marketing techniques that you may study, none of that matters if you cannot bring it live. So you have to kick your ass and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and prepare and prepare and prepare and really become an unstoppable, undeniable live performer. And then you can promote and market and it'll be a lot easier. There's so many artists who come to me and they're like, Ari, I'm following all of your tactics from your book. I'm promoting all my shows. I'm doing everything you said. I'm running ads. I'm following all the promo tactics that you suggest to do. And I take a look at their business plan and see what they've done. I'm like, yeah, you have. I'm like, all right, well, let me come see your show. So let me know when you're coming through LA. They come to LA. I go see their show. I'm like, I can tell you why people aren't connecting with your music, with your show, because you're not great. You're not very good. I'm sorry, but you're okay. But why would I choose to spend my $15 on you when I could spend it on 30 other artists that are in town tonight? Or I might as well just sit at home and be more entertained by Netflix. Mind you, you're not just competing with other artists in town. You're also competing with Netflix and the coziness of their couch. So if you are going to get people out to your show, you better bring it hard. Truth number 2, you want everyone's contact info in the room. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, we all know about email, and this has been around for couple decades now, and you've heard the talking heads, and I've talked about it. Get everyone's email list. Okay, but how do you get their emails? And sure, people have an email sign up at the merch table, but that's good for maybe like 7 to 10 signups or something if you got 150, 200 people in the room. How are you going to get everyone's contact info in the room? Now, for smaller shows, what I recommend, every house concert that I played and every house concert that you play, or honestly, every concert where there is fewer than 50 people in there, this is easier. Just pass the clipboard, pass the iPad around the room and have people sign up right there. So I would do this towards, 3/4 of the way through your set and mention, all right, I'm going to pat, you can do it from the stage. Hey, I have an iPad. This is an email sign up. I'm going to pass this around. Please don't drop it. It is expensive. And please pop your email in it and then offer incentives. Everyone who signs up, you'll get a free sticker. Sometimes you have volunteers. You can You can have your merch seller go around with the iPad or with the clipboard with a stack of stickers and say, hey, if you sign up, you can get this sticker right here. And then everyone will sign up. Or at house concerts, it's really simple. They just pass it around. And you can say from the stage, we're about to play this new song. It is unreleased. It's not coming out for a few months. But if you sign up on our email list right now, pull out your phone. Everybody show me your phone. Okay. Now go to myband.com and you can have a pop-up email sign up right on your website. Program this. It's not hard to do. So go to myband.com right now, everybody there. Now sign up on the email list. And as soon as you sign up, you're going to get this song in your inbox that we're playing right now. It's only for you. It's unreleased, but this is for you for signing up right now. You can also run contests at the show to hang out with, after the show, and you can win some free merch. You can do a drawing right after the show, saying everyone who signs up on the email list right now, we are going to draw your name at the end of the show to win a free $50 worth of merch. So everyone sign up, pull out your phones, go to ourband.com and sign up on the email list, and then you can have your manager, tour manager, friend, merch person, whomever, go through all the signups and pick somebody and then announce their name at the end of the show. Now, there's also texting services. So this is relatively new, but there's a lot of texting services out there, and you can do some research and find ones. We've used a few in the past where you can have them text a number instead of emailing, because it's a lot simpler. You can say, all right, text Ari to 46673, and everyone, we're going to do a similar drawing. You go win $50 in merch, a t-shirt, you win a hoodie. And now I've heard of this, works at every level. I've heard of big artists like country stars playing arenas, putting the number on the jumbotrons, saying if you text this number, this name to this number, we're going to choose 2 people for a meet and greet with this artist after the show. And so that's like real-time stuff. They put it on the jumbotron, and now they're getting thousands of people to text to win a meet and greet with their favorite artist. And now they have all their contact information, or at least their phone numbers, to be able to let them know when they're coming back through town, because then they know who's signing up and what location. But also they can let them know when they have a new song out. They can text them the link to the new song. So here, definitely offering incentives. And I've had join us for an encore on the stage at the end of the show. And this is definitely, you want to do this for your big opening slot. So some of the biggest missed opportunities that I see artists make are when they get a big opening slot and they're opening for an artist. So let's say you're normally playing to 50, 100 people locally, 200, whatever. But now you get a big opening slot, and now you're going to play in front of 1,500 people or more. And what do most artists do that I see? They show up, they might have some merch or not, and they play the show and they have an incredible time. And then they book another show a month later and they only still have 50 to 100 people come. And like, well, what happened? I thought we would have made so many more fans. That's because you didn't get their contact information. If you're doing a big opening slot, you need to really sit down and think about, okay, how are we going to maximize this opportunity? Yes, up your merch, of course. Yes, promote the merch from the stage, fine. But how are you going to get everyone in the room's contact info? Really think about that. And definitely when you're doing big opening slots, you want to think about that. Truth number 3, selling advance tickets is insurance. What does that mean? So I always try to sell advance tickets whenever possible. I recommend everybody tries to set up advance tickets however you can, because that guarantees that they are going to show up. Even if the advance ticket is $10 or even if it's $5, it guarantees they're going to show up. Now, I know it sucks with ticketing fees, and oftentimes the venues, they have ticket deals with ticket vendors like Ticketfly or Ticketmaster or whatever, and they tack on like $5 in fees, and it's annoying. So oftentimes I will do, and this is why you see artists do, advance tickets, $10, day of, $15. And so maybe the fee is like $2.50 or $3. And so, okay, sure. You know, they're only saving a couple bucks by buying in advance, but they're saving a little bit of money. But what you can do is also offer incentives. Everybody who gets an advance ticket will get a free merch item, and you can pick up what is that merch item going to be, and you can come up with it. It's going to get the sticker, you know, something low price. So we're a funk project. I front a funk band right now. We played a show a few weeks back, and we said everyone who buys an advance ticket is going to get a free wardrobe item, because we're encouraging everybody to dress up in the 1970s, because we're kind of a 1970s band. Get a free wardrobe item at the merch table. So we had these glasses, these kind of funky round glasses, and everyone who bought an advance ticket got a pair of glasses. Now we bought these for, it was maybe like less than $1 per glasses. We bought them in bulk on Amazon, maybe even less than that. And so, you know, it didn't really cost us that much, but it definitely incentivized people to buy advance tickets. And sure, we made more money on people who bought tickets at the door, because if it's $10 advance or $15 at the door, you're going to make more money. You're going to make $15. And if you have a door split, you know, like 70% of the door or something like that, yeah, you're making more money the day of. But you can't guarantee that anybody's coming if they haven't bought tickets. So I definitely recommend trying to set up advance tickets whenever you can. Okay, those are the 3 truths. You can see those there. Now, I want everybody to take a second, and I want you to visualize going on a tour across the US or Europe and playing to 100 to 500 people every night. Really do this. Close your eyes. I'm going to do it with you. Now visualize. First visualize, I want you to visualize playing to 400 people locally in your hometown. So pick a venue. Do this, pick a venue. Now, what does it look like when you're on stage and there's 400 people there in your hometown? Now think about that. Now visualize what that looks like on a 30-date tour every single night for a month and a half. Pretty cool, right? The reason I have you visualize this is because the only way to make anything happen in your music career is you have to visualize it. You have to see it to make it happen, to manifest it. Everything that has ever happened in my music career, I have visualized first, seeing this is what I want. This is what it looks like. I actually visualize it. I even sometimes say it out loud. I'll write it down. This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. These are my goals. That's why writing out goal sheets are so huge. And then to make it happen. Now, of course, it doesn't just happen, but you have to make it happen. But at least you know what you're working towards. You have to think like that. That's the only way you're going to make this happen, is you really think about it. So a lot of you know that, a lot of you probably read my blog, Ari's Take. Maybe you're on my email list. Maybe you read my book. A lot of you know that I just recently launched Ari's Take Academy just a few months back. And I created Ari's Take Academy, which helps musicians, managers, agents have successful careers in the music industry, primarily because, well, a lot of music schools are using my book. I've spoken at a lot of music schools. I've consulted a lot of graduates of these music schools. And it is really, the system is kind of broken right now. And I see far too many graduates of these music schools graduating in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they're not set up for success. And after hearing from so many artists and consulting so many musicians who graduate from a very expensive college with a music business degree, and they come to me and they're like, hey, Ari, I don't know how to set up a tour. I'm like, what are you talking about? What did you learn at school? They're not delivering like I think they should. But also, I created this because people asked me, because it's the same reason I created Ari's Take. I started the blog, aristake.com, years ago, because I was running my own career and touring a lot and having successes. And people would hit me up on Facebook and send me messages saying, Ari, how do I do this? And I would get back to everybody. at least I tried to. And eventually I got way too many messages. I couldn't get back to everybody. So my brother's a web developer, and I just kind of put up everything I was learning and answers to all the questions I was getting on the blog. And I would then point people there. Oh, you have this question? Actually, I wrote about it here. You can read about it here. And so that's why I started Ari's Take, because people were asking me about it. And then people came to me and they're like, all right, I've read all of your articles on Ari's Take and it's helpful, but I need something to piece the dots together. I need help guiding my career. What do I do for the step-by-step? What book should I read? I'm like, well, I've read most of the music business books out there. And honestly, I can't recommend any of them because none of them are dealing with today's music industry as it's happening right now. And being in the unique position I was in, I was seeing how people were making it work. And no one was really writing about it or talking about it or teaching it. So that's why I wrote the book, because people are asking about it and it didn't exist. And then people came to me after reading the book. They're like, all right, the book's helpful, but I'm not making it happen. I need some accountability. I need more hands-on attention. And I'm like, okay, well, I remember going to music school and in music college and studying music business and songwriting. And I remember that community aspect. And I remember being guided through it. And maybe I didn't learn as much as I would have liked to at the school that I went to. But I want to create this community for people. And I want to teach working musicians and managers and agents on how to make it happen right now. So I created Ari's Take Academy for working professionals. This is for the working professionals. This is not necessarily made for people fresh out of high school. You can join it if you're fresh out of high school or in high school, that's cool. But these are every course that I've created for Ari's Take Academy deals with being able to implement it right now, today. You learn something today, you implement it tomorrow for your music career. So the course that I launched not too long ago, How to Become a Successful Touring Artist, covers a lot of what we just talked about, but we go deep into it. And I actually want to show you the curriculum for what this is, so you get an understanding of kind of what we're looking at here. So here is the curriculum for, let me go to the top here, for this Ari's Take Academy course. And so we deal with 6 steps to an undeniable live show. I talk about how to be an undeniable performer, how to build a local following, how to be a sellout every show in your hometown, how to create your EPK, promoting the shows, finding your fans. We talk about the mailing list, texting like we just mentioned. We go deep into that. We talk all about that. How to open for a national touring artist. So I know I mentioned before about don't miss that opportunity when you get that. I actually step you through how you can open for nationally touring artists in your hometown. And then also how to be a support act on a tour. So if you want to open for a bigger artist on tour, I talk about how you can do that. And then we dig into how to book and promote your own tour, your headlining tour. We step you through all of that. Budgeting, promotion, tour management. We discuss lodging and then merch. There's a whole section on merch, what kinds of merch, organizing, storing, displaying. And then we have a whole touring. So that's, we have touring US and then touring Europe. And so we actually just added this touring Europe section recently. This was actually, we just added this a couple of weeks ago. So this is very new. This was after interviewing about 25 experts on the European touring market, from booking agents, promoters, venue owners, artists, managers, all of this. And so we talk about the whole European touring section. And then as part of this course, every month I do a live Q&A session where you can hop in and ask whatever questions you like. All right, let me bring it back to this slideshow here. So what's also really cool about this, about Ari's Take Academy, about this course in particular, is we have a private Facebook group that's open to everyone who's in the course. And this is for you to network. So we have people from all over the world in there, networking, doing show trades. We've had people that have booked mini tours together that, you know, they're big in their hometown. And so they invite somebody to come play and open for them. And then they go and open for that other person who's big in their hometown. So this is really a community, but also this is where you ask all your questions. So if you have any questions about anything, I mean, yes, specifically on the course, but really you can ask whatever you want. People are talking about virtually everything in the group. I'm in there, my TA's in there, and this is really one of actually the best parts of the course, I believe. So what you're going to get as part of this course, and now this is, I have calculated all of this from looking at other major universities and other online offerings. We have a Mastering Performance Techniques, How to Become a Star in Your Hometown course, How to Book and Promote a Full National Tour and International and all across Europe. We have that private Facebook group, which I mentioned. I interview industry leaders from managers and booking agents and promoters. You'll have access to those interviews and be able to ask them questions. And then we do 12 monthly Q&A sessions with me. So the value of what this is $10,000. And it absolutely is worth that. That's not what I'm charging for this because I wanted to make it affordable for musicians. Now, I know it's worth this because we've been running this and it is absolutely worth this, but I want to make it affordable for musicians. So that's not what I'm charging. But also, I want to kind of kick your butt to enroll in this for the next 8 days because we just launched this Europe part and I want this community to come out strong. So if you enroll in the next 8 days, you can pitch your music for feedback to a manager at Red Light Management. Remember I talked before, Red Light Management is the largest management company in the world. So this is a full $11,000 is what it's worth. It absolutely is worth that. That's not what we're charging. I made this affordable enough for musicians. It's $87 a month for this course. I know most courses at most major universities are $3,000, $4,000. Some are more, depending on what school you're going to. I wanted to make it affordable for musicians. So no matter where you're at in your career, everyone can afford $897 or $87 a month. And we have an installment plan basically, but I made it affordable enough so any musician that's taking it seriously will do it. But I made it expensive enough to weed out the people who are not serious because I did not want to clutter up our community with people who are not serious about their music career. This is for only people who are willing to invest in their music career and they are ready to take their music career to the next level. They're ready to start touring. They're ready to start making a real career and really take it to the next level. So we settled on $897 or an installment plan of $87 a month because we really believe this is where it's at right now. And this is the best thing to help you become a successful touring artist. So, and I also did some calculations and I want you to think about this because this is really important. Now, I have done countless failed shows. I've learned everything the hard way. And I'm sure a lot of you have learned this too. I calculated the cost of one empty tour day for a band of 4. Let's just look at this. One tour day, just one. 300 miles in gas, $50, $25, car maintenance, hotels, just one show. Show promo, food, and then if you have a day job, lost wages for that one day. You're looking at around $2,000 loss if you have an empty tour day, meaning you book a tour, one show, and no one shows up and you don't make any money on that. Or if you don't have day jobs, you're looking at around $450 just as a loss if nobody shows up. Now, that's what I'm looking to prevent. I see this happen so much and it drives me crazy and it breaks my heart when I hear that bands book a 20-day tour. They go out, they lose their shirts, they make no money, no one shows up, they come home and they break up. And that breaks my heart. So I'm trying to prevent this. Now, I don't want anyone to go into debt for this course. So this is a big difference from major universities. I'm not asking you to take out loans. That's why I made it affordable enough. I want you to use your disposable income. Maybe go out to the movies less, go out to dinner less. There are ways you can make these sacrifices that will, for your music career, to invest. This is an investment and everybody has the $87 a month. You can make that work. Remember, money replenishes. You got a day job, every 2 weeks you're getting that paycheck. Time does not. You can learn all of this stuff the hard way. You can spend the next 10 years if you want learning all of this stuff and making a lot of mistakes and probably going through a bunch of different bands and breaking up and playing empty show after empty show after empty show. Or you can join us in this course and expedite this. You'll learn all of this within a couple months. You'll get through all of this. And then I step you through how to do all this, when to set up your local shows, how to book regional shows, how to book national tours, how to tour Europe, all of this. I step you through this. I'm with you every step of the way going through this. So I want you to think about, okay, what are you going to do tomorrow? If you join us, you can break the cycle of paralysis. If you're stuck, you're like, I don't know why things are not working. I just want to play. I want to tour. I know that my live show is strong. It's just not working. Break that cycle. And now I'm here to hold you accountable. And everyone else in the course, this group is so special and magical because we hold each other accountable. We say, we're here for you. We got you, but also it's time to make it happen. We're here to kick your ass too. And what I've realized now doing this with Ari's Take and the book and everything else, information unfortunately is not enough. If it was enough, there would be everyone who read my book or any of the books out there or went to school and graduated from these schools, they would be successful musicians, touring artists. And that's just not the case. I know it takes a lot more than just having the knowledge and information. We're here to kick your ass to make that happen. So you have two options. One, you can have, it's very, very simple. And I'm going to break it down really, really simple. There's two options for you right now. Option number one, you have a music career. Or number two, you make excuses for why you don't have a music career. It's really that simple. That's it. So do you want a music career or do you want to make excuses about why you can't do it? And your two choices. Right now you do nothing, continue to struggle if you're struggling. Or you join us and we crack the code. Community is so important to me. And I love bringing musicians, talented, hardworking, passionate artists and managers and everyone in the industry together so we can succeed together. I don't believe in competition in the music industry. I believe a rising tide lifts all ships. We're all in this together, and that's what this is about. This is about community. So no matter where you are in the world, maybe you don't have a strong local scene. That's okay. We are now your scene. If you don't have this community, I want to kind of recreate that energy of what it's like in college when you're surrounded by like-minded people who are kicking ass together. We are going to kick ass together with you. So you join us in here and we're all going to kick ass together. And so I really want you to think about, this is stuff that I went through, things that I really, really hated and drove me nuts, like empty shows and playing an empty show and then feeling like no one cares and I'm not sufficient enough for a music career. And then I doubt everything. I want to crush all of that. We need to crush it. And so that's what this is here to do, is to just crush all of these insecurities and all these feelings of doubt and insufficiency, like nobody cares about your music because I'm not showing up. If people aren't showing up to your shows, it doesn't mean you suck. There could be many factors. And the main reason is you don't know how to reach your audience and promote effectively. So that's what I'm here to help you with. So something about this, we don't offer degrees as for Ari's Take Academy yet. That's not what I'm looking for. Degrees as a musician in the music industry are worthless. They mean nothing. So you got a bachelor's degree, I don't care. You have a master's, you have a PhD, I don't care. Nobody cares. No talent buyer, no record label, no booking agent, no manager is asking if you have a degree. So what happens when you graduate Ari's Take Academy is you can become a certified Ari's Take artist. Now, what a certified Ari's Take artist is if once you complete all the lessons, you meet a few career milestones. I lay them out on the course page. What that is, you meet a few career milestones. Then you become a certified Ari's Take artist, and now you are invited into my personal network. You have access to everyone I have access to. I will personally help you along on your journey and make any introduction you want. If you're looking for a manager, once you become a certified Ari's Take artist, I know that you're taking things seriously, and you, not just that, you're making things happen and you are well on your way. I will make introductions for you for managers or booking agents. You want a booking agent? I will help you with that. A publicist, whatever you're looking for, I am at your service because you went through this academy and you implemented everything and you started kicking ass and you made it work. I know that these strategies work. And if you show me that you are dedicated and hardworking and passionate and talented and you make it happen, then I'm going to make it happen for you more so after the fact as well. So remember, you have 8 days and we're going to do this live Q&A and listening session with the manager of Red Light Management, but you have to do it in the next 8 days. Otherwise, because that's going to happen in a couple weeks. So you have to jump in then. And if you have any questions about this, you can ask them here on the chat box, or you can email awesome@aristakeacademy.com. That's .com at the end. I know my face is blocking right now. The offer is up to join it. You also get an email about this as well. And I told you at the very beginning, how can you double your show income at every show? So I want to cover this. So does anyone have any questions? Well, we're going to get into questions in just a second. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll get some questions. So the way that you are going to double your show income at every show is very simple. It's through merch. Now, it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just mean you make CDs and boom, every show you're doubling your income. So this chart right here was created by @Venue. They are the largest inventory tracking platform and point of sale platform for touring artists in the world. They do merch for thousands and thousands of artists, ranging from club shows, 500 cap shows, all the way up to arenas and stadiums. They're the ones that are tracking the inventory, and they are kind of point of sale. So they swipe your credit card and keep track of all the money and stuff like that. Now, they said that based on the average dollar per head, the average dollar per head is $3.65, meaning if there's 100 people at your show, you should make $365 in merch. Now, based on your genre, you can look at this chart right here and you can see what the average is. Okay, so if you are a metal act, the average is $4.75. If you are an R&B soul act, it's only, what is that? $2.10. If you're a rock act, it's $3.77. But like I said, the average is $3.65. So if you are not, if you brought 100 people to your show, and let's say you brought 100 people, and let's say you made, after expenses and paying out the sound person and splitting it with the other people, let's say you made $300, $350, $400 maybe. With merch, if you are amongst the average of every other artist out there that @Venue has tracked, thousands of artists, you should be pulling in $365 in merch. If you're not pulling that in merch, you need to figure out how to make it so you are pulling that in merch. And that's also what we kind of talk about in the course, is how to increase your merch sales. And I have a whole section on merch. Okay, so I want to take questions. Does anyone have any questions about anything? And I am here to answer your questions for the next couple minutes. So hit me with your questions. Let me make sure this thing is there. Okay. So, hey, Born. Octavia, you have a question. Type it out. I'm looking at the chat box now. What is your question? I am here for you. Or if people asked them earlier. Okay, let's see. Born, are you familiar with United Masters distribution? I am. What is your question? Maybe you want my opinion on them. I haven't added them to my chart. Born wants to know my opinion on United Masters versus DistroKid. I recommend DistroKid. I do not recommend United Masters. I have heard very iffy things about United Masters. To be honest, I don't know if United Masters is going to be a company in business in a year from now. I have heard people who work at the company. I've talked to them. I've talked to people who are in kind of adjacent companies who have left the company, and they say that United Masters is kind of a shit show. So I would stay away from them. Okay. Cassandra, do you offer one-on-one consulting sessions, attaining visas for paid performance in UK, EU if you have no management worker? So we do actually go over visas and all you need to know about visas in the course. So we have a whole section on that. So once you join us in the course, we talk about visas for Europe and UK and all of that stuff. I have paused my one-on-one consulting program. I just don't have time for it anymore. I may open it back up or turn it back on, but I don't really do one-on-one consultings anymore. I did it for a while. I'm just, I'm only one person. I don't have as much time. Andres, how do you suggest going about finding alternative venues in the US? That's a great question, Andres. And there's a lot of different avenues you can pursue. So alternative venues, house shows is a great one. I wrote about concerts in your home. So you can read my review on Ari's Take about concerts in your home. That is an organization. If you want to play some house concert shows, they have a bunch of hosts and a bunch of artists that are a part of that. And you can sign up to be, you can basically apply to be an artist. You have to submit. So if you're they're really only looking for acoustic artists. So if you're an acoustic artist, this can work for you. Definitely an avenue to pursue if you like. It's not for everybody. There are other house shows. Now, I've never done concerts in your home, but I played over 40 house concerts, and I've set them all up on my own. So in the course, we kind of talk about that a little bit. In my book, I have a whole section on house concerts. I also recommend Shannon Curtis's book if you're looking into house concerts. Her book is No Booker, No Bouncer, No Bartender, How I Made $25,000 in House Concerts in 2 months or something like that. You can find it on Amazon. It's a great house concert book if you're looking to that. Alternative venues, I've played, temples, churches, there are community centers. So it's really, you get hyper local. So when you're looking at a city that you're looking to tour to, you really just talk to the locals and see what's going on. There are a lot of communities have local festivals. So there are festival databases you can find, like Indie on the Move has a really great festival database. There's a bunch of other, Festival Wizard is actually a really good one as well. You can look at festivals and then college shows. So I just finished the Ari's Take Academy course on how to break into the college entertainment market. And I got 16 of our 20 artists signed to college agents as part of that Ari's Take Academy course. That's not open anymore. That was just for the spring. I may open it next year, but that was that's another way, alternative venues. So there's a lot of different alternative venues you can look into based on your style of music. But some of my best shows, most profitable and best shows have been house concerts, to be honest, because people are there and they're in. Sometimes I'm looking at $20 per head in merch because people are just there. They're so invested. It's just you and like 20 other people, 25 other people, and you're making a deep connection with everyone. And so then they buy all your merch. So we can dig into this a little bit more in the group if you want. But yeah, those are just some ideas for alternative shows in the States. Tim, I have my first show opening for a pretty big local band in Denver. Congratulations at a Live Nation venue. I want to make the best impression for hopefully more opening slots with Live Nation venues. Really, really smart. Very good. What's your advice for the first 30-minute slot guy trying to make a big impact? I love this question, Tim. This is a great question. If you don't mind me asking, who is the artist and what is the venue and what is the capacity of the venue? Because this changes things based on if you are going to, if it's a younger crowd and it's at a big venue, most of the times, they're going to show up right at doors and you're going to have a full audience there for you. But let's say, I'm just going to say, Live Nation venue. So let's say it's at a 1,500 cap venue, and it's going to be younger audience, so they're going to be there. So what I would say is make sure that Now, Tim, are you doing it with a band, or is this a solo show? I'm assuming because you said it's solo. But if you let me know. Amazie is the artist, venue is Marquee is the venue, probably about 250 capacity, but not 100% sure. Okay, so let's say you're gonna have 250 people in there. Now it's a small venue. It's a solo show, but I have a full band for the show. Oh, you're playing it solo, but you do have one in general. Okay. There's a few things. I would go to this venue a couple times before your show and see who is mixing, who the front of house engineers are, and see how they do. If they are great front of house engineers and the shows that they're mixing are excellent and they sound really good, okay, you can use a house person. Unfortunately, venues that size don't typically have great front of house engineers, and they're not really awesome. Now, touring bands will typically tour with their front of house engineer, but they're not going to mix your set. So if you want to sound good in there, and that's so important, I always recommend bringing your own front of house mixing engineer and finding somebody in town. How you find a front of house live sound mixing engineer is you go out to see a lot of shows, and any show that is mixed well in any size venue, honestly, it can be a 200 cap venue, it can be a 2,000 cap venue. If it sounds good in there, go up to the sound guy and get their card to be like, hey, it sounded great tonight. No one is complimenting the sound guy. Go compliment the sound guy. It sounded great tonight. You know, I'd love to get your number to hire you to come mix one of my shows. That's a really good thing. Make sure you have merch. Remember what I said before? Make sure you get everyone's contact information in the room. Do a texting game. Do an email game. Make sure you get everybody in there. I also recommend flyers and have some volunteers as people leave the venue. Hand out flyers to people as they leave and say, this was Tim who opened the show. Here's, give him a free something. Here's a free song. I mean, you know, most people are streaming these days anyways, but what you can say, not even a free song. Here's his next show. Here's how to stay in touch with Tim. Here's invited to the after party. Invite them to the after party, whatever. You know, just get something in their hands. Here, follow him on Instagram. Here's his Instagram, whatever. And it's just cool, or scan it. What we've done in the past is we put our Spotify QR code on a flyer and hand it to people as they're leaving, so they can just open their Spotify and scan your flyer. And then you do that. And then make sure you have a merch seller, your own merch seller, and make sure that that merch seller is stationed at the merch table from start to finish. Now, other fun things you can do is you can have a little photo booth. I've seen people set up, you know, have a photographer there, and they take photos of people around the room. They post it on your Instagram story, and they tag, and they say, let me get your Instagram. And so then they tag everybody. So then everyone follows you. That's a way to do it. So really, I would sit down with your friends, other people who think like you, and come up with all those kinds of ideas. How are we going to engage people? What are our objectives? Okay, we want to get people on our email list or their phone numbers. How are we going to do this? Or also, how are we going to get them to follow me on Instagram? How are we going to get them to buy my merch? You need to mention that you have merch for sale. You have to mention that from the stage. You have to say, you know, if you like what you're hearing, I have my CDs or my vinyl records or whatever. I have a T-shirt here, or I have a sticker, I have a pin, or a funny T-shirt. And one of the best merch sales I've ever seen was by an artist named Theo Katzman. He was headlining the Troubadour. Second to last song, he's like, oh, and I got some merch here tonight. He rips off his shirt and he pops on his merch shirt. He's like, hey, it looks like this. And it was hilarious. And he played it up really well. And then he sold out of his merch. It was awesome. So think about how you're going to sell your merch from the stage in a fun way that meets your personality. How are you going to meet your objectives? Getting their emails, their phone numbers, following you on Instagram, whatever it is. And then how are you going to make the show sound good? Are you going to hire your own front of house engineer, or are you going to use the house guy? Okay. Let's see. Bruce, when contacting venues, how many times do you attempt to contact a venue before you move on to the next possible venue? And what is your preferred method of contacting venue bookers? Thanks. I always recommend email. Everyone wants to work on email. Don't DM them on Instagram or Facebook or tweet them or whatever. Always email. Occasionally phone. Some will list the phone number of the venue, if typically kind of for bigger ones, but they have an office, and you can pick up the phone and call them. If you find a phone number, call I've booked shows over the phone, and they like, wait, you sent me an email about this? Yeah, I did. Hold on, looking for it. Oh, I found it. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, June 15th. Okay, yeah, it's open. Yeah, that sounds good. We can book it. If they haven't heard of you, do this. I believe in polite persistence. That is the key to this industry. Polite persistence. So I would follow up. Honestly, I keep following up until you get a no. So I would follow up every week with the venue and shoot them, give them a call. Just be polite about it every single time, and always reply from the original email. Don't start a new email thread. Always reply from the original email. Let me say that again. Always reply from the original email. When people send me emails, they're like, Ari, I don't know if you got my last 5 emails. I'm like, I'm not going to go search my inbox for all your emails. I would just want to scroll down and see all the emails that you sent me. And now if I see, oh, I did miss, you sent me 5 emails in a row and I haven't replied to them. Okay, sorry, I'm going to reply. Always reply from that email. Keep emailing, and you will eventually get a response. And if you don't, yeah, move on. Maybe after the 6th email or something like that. That's why you have to plan 3 to 4 months in advance of setting up these shows. Now, it is also about timing. Like, I'll tell you a little story. I was trying to get into the Hotel Cafe here in LA for years, and I couldn't get an email response. And eventually I kept emailing and never got a response, and I moved on, had to find a different venue. I feel you, you know. And then one day I sent an email back to the dude. I was like, hey, I'm looking at this date. And he responds right away. I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, I'm looking at this. We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we probably had 15 emails back and forth within the span of 10 minutes after like 2 years of him never responding to an email, because it was about timing. Because the date that I suggested was only a month and a half away. He needed to fill that slot. It came in right at the perfect time. He's like, oh, great. I need to fill the slot anyways. Okay, who is this guy? I've never heard of him. All right, let me listen to his music now. I have time for this because I need to fill this. It's timing. Like his music, let me watch a video. Okay, what does he say? He can bring 50 people? Yeah, that'll work. Perfect. You know, if they don't know who you are, it's also about timing. It really is about timing. But honestly, I've interviewed so many talent buyers, promoters, booking agents, and they all say it's about timing and it's about persistence. Do not give up. Just because they're not responding to your email does not mean they hate you. It means they don't have time for you right now. They're doing a million other things. They've never heard of you. They don't have time for you. Okay, Octavia. What about touring or playing open mics or places like Rockwood Music Hall in New York? Love that spot. That do not require ticket sales sometimes. I'm planning a tour like that in order to build my solo performance skills. Okay. I would not tour to build your performance skills unless it's like very, very local, regional. I would play to build your performance skills. I would play everywhere and anywhere, open mics, lots of open mics. And if you're a solo act, definitely play open mics, play charity events. Basically, early on, you say yes to everything. You play everywhere and anywhere. You just say yes to everything. Now, I know a lot of people have heard Derek Sivers' quote. He's one of the most quoted. This is one of the most quoted things in the business world of all time. He says, it's either a hell yeah or a no. That only comes into play once you are established and once you have cut your chops and you've built up a following. Early on, you say yes to everything. And so you find alternative venues. Play cafes, play coffee shops, set up all the low pressure performance situations that you have. Now I have a tier system, and I have like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 are these like private shows where you don't promote at all and no one's really invited to. Tier 2 are kind of these low pressure environments like open mics, songwriter nights, rounds, house concerts, that kind of stuff. And then the tier 3 shows are the ones that are your showcase shows where you get everyone to come out to. Because you don't want to book a show at a club where they're expecting you to bring a crowd, and either you can't bring a crowd because you have no friends or fans, or you play just too often and you just can't promote every show, or you bring a crowd and you're not good And now the crowd's never going to want to see you again. So cool, you brought 50 people this one time. They're never coming again because you weren't good. So you don't want to play those marquee shows. Rockwood may even be a little bit too big for you. I mean, you could play Rockwood 1 maybe, but they kind of, take notice and they expect you to bring some people. So I would play coffee shops and I would play alternative venues and I would just play as much as you possibly can early on to cut your performance chops. All right, D. We're going to do 2 more questions. Ari, how often do your visualizations work out how you expect? How often do you revisit, pivot, change your goals? Great question. I reevaluate my goals probably every 6 months. I'll set out goals and I'll say, this is what I'm looking to work on and achieve. Now, oftentimes going down one pathway and working towards one of the goals, something will come up or happen and it inspires me to do something slightly different and it changes my course a little bit. But it feels natural when those things happen. So I'm always working towards a goal and pushing for that and making shit happen. And most of the time I achieve all the goals that I set out because they're realistic goals. They're lofty for sure, but they're realistic and I know how I'm going to achieve them. So I pretty much set out my goals. I set like 6-month, 1 year, 5-year goals, and I achieve them. But they might not look exactly like I'm looking for. Sometimes we're going to, anything. So it's like, oh, I want to get a song on a TV show. Well, maybe I didn't get a song on the TV show in the 3 months, but I got it on a commercial or a movie or whatever, or I want to bring, I want to sell out this club. Well, those dates weren't working. So instead I actually sold out this club or booked this show at this club instead. So, things can shift slightly. But for the most part, when I set my goals, I think very hard about the kinds of goals I set. I don't just willy-nilly throw some things out that would be cool. I'm like, I really think about it. And you should really think about, is this goal obtainable in the time frame that I'm setting if I work at it really hard? And then you set that goal and you're like, okay, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. Okay, so let me see. I'm looking here. Born, aside from Indie on the Move, what other company would you suggest for finding events to pay for in the States? Not sure about finding events. I would do, I use Yelp to find venues. I use, there's Festival Wizard, there's Indie on the Move. There are, it really depends on the kinds of events that you're looking for. In terms of paying somebody, there aren't other kinds of platforms necessarily like this that I would say, yeah, go sign up for this and pay for this. I definitely do not recommend Reverb Nation. So I know that's a site out there. I can tell you what I don't recommend. If you have specific sites that you'd like me to ask me about, I can tell you what I don't recommend. But yeah, that's a solid one. Indie on the Move. Okay. So right on. Well, I don't know. I'm going to get going. We've held you here long enough, 20 minutes past 4 o'clock. So thank you guys. I'm happy that you were able to attend this. And once again, you have 8 days to sign up for this course again. And it's right there. And if you enroll in the next 8 days, we're going to do a listening session with a manager from Red Light Management. He's going to give you feedback. You can ask questions. I hope to see you in the course. It's really inspiring. It's really cool to see how many people are kicking ass in there. So join me in the course, and I will see you next time. I'll see you online on Facebook. I'll see you on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. If you're on my email list, I'll be seeing you there as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, your night, your morning, wherever you are in the world. Take care. Peace.